Duke is kind of doing his final things here.
I think you got a thumbs up. Knowing him, he's already recording us, and this is all going to make it into the episode.
Today's show is brought to you by L.R. Falk Construction, providing quality aggregates for the roads and infrastructure we live on, work on, and play on. Visit lrfalk.com for ag lime, employment opportunities, or to learn more.
Hello and welcome to Saints TV. This is Behind the Saints, Season 2, Episode 4. I'm Canal Genius. To my right is Not Your Average Joe. To his right is Duke Scoop. And across from the table from us is our special guest, St. Desert Saints head volleyball coach, Steph Beaver. Thanks for joining us today, Steph.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, we're so excited to have you coaching volleyball this season, and there's so much to talk about. I have so many questions on my mind. I know Joe's got a whole list of them. So we're gonna move to Not Your Average Joe, who's gonna have some questions. I'm sure that some of my questions will get answered in the answers that we get out of what you have to say as well. So Joe, take it away.
Wow, Coach Beaver, why don't you just start and tell us about, I know you've been around the program, obviously as a player and then as an assistant coach, now as the head coach. Tell us about that and kind of your progression into this role.
It's been really awesome to see how much it has grown. The whole program wouldn't be where it is. It's all those people that started years and years and years ago and start building it there.
Yeah, that's really cool. How long were you an assistant?
8 years. This is my 9th year.
Okay, so first year as head coach, right?
Yep.
So talk about that transition.
It's been, I knew there would be a lot more paperwork, but there's a lot more paperwork. So like the time that it takes to do that, you got to hope for good nap times and early bed times for me to get that done.
The stats and all that stuff that we can go look up on Bound and that we love to have, that somebody has to physically do that.
Right.
And that generally falls on the head coach in our program.
Right.
So.
And just like organizing things and getting everything prepped for season. It's just a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
Just looking up in the gym there, last year, 2023, the team hung the banner up there. It's the last time you did that was 1988.
Yeah.
So you're coming off a great year.
Fortunately, we have a lot of returners. So a lot of people who are confident and experienced and all those pieces, which is really awesome. Coach Johnson has still been helpful for me if I have questions on things. Like, it's not like he just isn't here anymore. He's on the side and he's always got a good eye for things. If I'm questioning, like, I feel like it's this, I want to try this. What do you got for me? But like, our kids are excited and they're ready to put another one up. We got some power. Like, the weight room is no joke. The kids put their time in and you can tell just by their verticals, where they're hitting that ball. We got to piece certain things together that you spot some weaknesses against certain teams. And those are things that we want to see because those are things that help us get better. So we just got to get all those pieces meshing together. But we got good things happening.
13-4 to start the season. So obviously a fantastic start. I think 2 of those losses were to the number 1 2A Denver. So that's speaks volumes, obviously, the results. What do you attribute that to?
The time that kids have put in, and Terrence and the community and the coaches and everyone who's bought into the volleyball program. It doesn't start just your freshman year. We didn't have all those people buying in that early on. Everyone wouldn't be where it's at. And then you got a little bit of luck on who you got on your team that year. And, all the pieces happen to fall in the right places for positions.
You talk about his hitters, and that's what I've noticed watching on Saints TV mostly. I'm a little afraid to be on the other side of that net. When Lindsay Cruzy winds up and whacks one of those things, like, I don't think I want to be taking that thing on the other side. It looks intimidating. It almost looks like we roll into a place and like we've got a front row that, we'll put a hurting on you if you let us do that. And I'm sure that's been something that this team looks like it's relied on a little bit of. We can rally, we can get down and rally when we need to with some of those big kills, and like we're gonna get after this thing.
Yeah.
I was actually a casualty to that. I was stand-up last season, standing behind the net, and one came over and hit me right in the face and busted my.
Did you remember that?
So talking about this talent, obviously a great team is built on more than talent, right? You're coming in here, these girls, they spend all day together in Spaloot. End of the day, okay, now we're going to work together on this thing. And it's not necessarily volleyball moves,
Right.
right? It's being a good teammate. How do you practice that?
It's a challenge. At the beginning of season, since our theme this year was a culture of character, we as a team established what our values were.
Mhm.
So we established what they were, we defined them, and then we listed them in a hierarchy. So you'll see them on the coach's office. There's a postal over there on the wall, and then there's posters in those lines.
Sounds like a business meeting.
It does. It does. But it's
We are here. We got
they're all
business.
That's right.
Yeah, when you watching you in the evenings together, it's amazing. It's magic to watch.
Yeah. They've been doing a really nice job.
So you've got 7 seniors, if I counted correctly. Talk about that and the importance of having a group just of that size, and then of course the character and quality of those seniors as well.
Right. They're a great group of leaders. They come in and they do the job, and they do it to their best abilities, and they do it with a good attitude. And we got some of those kids that don't see a lot of court time, and you wouldn't know. They don't pout about it. They have a great attitude, and they are great teammates all the time. And that's hard. I've been a bench player. Okay. It's hard to want to find that energy to like really cheer for your team. But in the same aspect, if they weren't at the level of play that they are, our starters wouldn't be at the level of play that because we still need good people to practice against. So you don't have good people on both sides of your court in practice, you're not going to get to the level of play to get at.
Everybody has to do their job. That's, again, a credit to the culture and the leadership we have around here in our programs and our kids. And, you know, that's a great thing. Duke is failing to provide protection. He's so smart right now.
The players turn sideways. They're peppering the other way. So
I love it. So with the added quad you've got coming, you've got a tournament, that, and 3 matches left in this season, right? So it's going fast already. I'm sure just like the football coach told us, it's about being in the best shape and the best condition and the best version of yourself as we can be come playoff time. How do you get everybody into that best shape and best position they can be in as a team? What's that look like?
it comes down to quality reps. You're either getting better or you're not. But it's not the maintaining. Like each rep, every time you touch a ball, you're either doing it to get it better or you're just here. You don't want to go through the motion. So even with the boring stuff that you have to do, if you don't do that, you're not going to be where you want to be. And you have to do it with that mentality that like every time I touch this ball, I'm getting better.
I know coaches hate this. I'm going to ask you anyway. But our latest rankings come out. Saints are up before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's 1A. Have earned that, right? And that's why we like talking about it, because it's fun to recognize our program, right? Of like, hey, our football team's ranked, your baseball team was ranked, your softball team. You know, that's fun.
It is.
To talk through all that, but it's also can be distracting for kids. You know, I
They must.
totally get that. You know, they're gonna look, right? Absolutely. How do you handle that to keep everybody level-headed and focused on the goal?
They should be proud of that. That's not something that you should just hide away because, like, again, they've earned that. They put the time in for it. So, like, yeah, we talk about it. You're ranked 4th, but that means that you also have a target on your back.
Mhm.
People are coming for you. They are gunning at you because they want to take that win. They want to do well score-wise against you. They want to get kills against you like this. You got to be prepared for everyone coming at you hard. So with that, though, you're not entitled to any win. Just because a team may have, their losing record does not mean you're entitled to that win. You have to earn every win that you have.
And just kind of going down the stats list, I mean, there's a lot of big numbers and like a lot of kids chipping in.
Mm-hmm.
So I see we had 3 girls with more than 90 kills or something along those lines. I mean, just crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's the best part about our team too, is that everyone contributes at such a high level. When some teams, they're like, oh, got this one dominant player. Like, everyone is going to have to touch that ball. And if everyone's doing it with great skill and everything else, it just happens to flow very nicely. And it gives you a lot of opportunities that way. If your teammate's having an off night who normally crushes it, like, you got someone else who's going to step up to the plate and you're not worried about it.
Yep. And how much harder is it to game plan for a team like ours that has, 3 girls who with 96 kills or whatever the heck that number is, instead of, well, we got to shut down number 6.
Right.
Nope, that's not going to work for us.
Yeah.
You can maybe focus and shut one of them down, but the other 2 are going to step up and beat you, or somebody that you didn't even see coming, who we know is good, but maybe hasn't had that opportunity yet, is going to step up that night. And that's a huge thing just from a game plan perspective of they can't just focus on shutting one person down or running a scheme that maybe limits their best player.
Right.
When we have multiple girls, it makes it harder to do that.
That's exactly it. And that was something that was an asset of ours last year too. So like that's something that we've carried over the past 2 years. And it comes down to a lot when you're a small school, you have to learn how to play different positions. And that makes you a more well-rounded player because then you really understand the game. Not just from their position, but you understand the game and what everyone's job is supposed to be.
And as impressive as those stats are, what makes them even more impressive is that in most of these matches, you're doing it in 3 sets. Like that's 40 less points than a 5-set game,
Right.
For the Saints. And like all of this is happening in many cases in 3 sets,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal, just phenomenal. And hats off to you. I mean, just from a leadership perspective, we talked to it earlier. Super impressive. The practice is happening behind us without you, right? There's a lot of coaches that are like, well, practice can happen without me. We talked about that a little earlier. But from a leadership perspective, it's about the system. It's about the recognition and the respect for the system. And you see, I'm witnessing this happen behind us. And, you're giving your assistant coaches credit. But it's a system. It's that everybody knows and understands and respects. And to me, it's just you're building greatness. You're molding greatness, and I love watching it.
Yeah, thanks. That's a goal. Sports aren't just for building good volleyball players. They're building good people. That's really the ultimate goal of most coaches. So
Love it. That's fantastic. Coach Beaver, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations on a great start to the season. Go finish this thing. We can't wait to watch and follow along here on Saints TV.
thanks for your support.
Thanks for being here.
All right, gentlemen, should we jump in, talk a little football? Week 4 coming up here. Let's start with a recap of week 3. Saints drop a tough one, a heartbreaker at West Hancock, 21-20. The West Hancock Eagles defeat your Saints. A fantastic football game.
Great game.
I mean, just 2 really good teams. All the hype, all the things we said going in, it turned out to be 100% true, right? It was great football. Both teams just, pulled out all the stops. We saw fake punts. We saw, counter plays that we hadn't seen all year. They attempted to throw the ball early, couldn't, quite frankly, just couldn't make that work. So instead, they figured out something in the run game that was working and then lived on that second half. And really that was the difference in the game. What they were able to do on first down offensively was one of those things that we made some adjustments and just nothing new. It just didn't work.
It was offensive.
It was offensive. It was. It starts with Brady Bixel. Hard to overcome that. He scores every point. For the Eagles and the Saints end up falling 21-20. Jay Suisa had a fantastic night. Talk about rolling the ball and working.
I mean, there was some passes there that, like, oh, where's he going with that? And then it just hits a guy right in the hair. And it's like,
yeah. 11 of 16. So 11 completions, 173 yards and a touchdown.
One thing I noticed, there was not one pass that I felt like who the defense might intercept that.
I feel 100% same way. Every ball he threw on Friday night, either his guy was going to catch or nobody would. They're just, the times we missed, it was overthrown. I was, I'm going to trust Dylan Duffy to run and meet this thing. And he almost did a couple of times. Coming out party for Connor Mullenbeck, I think.
Oh, man.
We talked about Dylan Brown and how dangerous he is. And obviously nothing changes with that. But to add a complimentary split end on the other side that has 3 catches, 61 yards, a 20-yard average, and 2 of the biggest catches of a game. He set us up for that last second field goal attempt. Really was a kind of Mullenbeck reception, and then from Suisa over the middle that he brings in and gains 20 on to set us up down there. To give us a chance to score there at the end.
Mullenbeck is one of the spit that we know he's an athlete. We know he's really experienced a lot of injuries here over the last year.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
And that just see him come out like that was just sort of a breath of fresh air to say, this kid is back and he's more mature and he's stronger.
It looks like he's just got the flexibility of a cat out there, the way that he was kind of twisting his body in order to make some catches.
Kind of lost in the shuffle. Also, Tyson Klein had a really nice night. we saw this strategy last year a little bit, where we're just going to go every week's a different feature back, right? Well, you're geared up to stop Corbin. That's all right. We'll give it to Tyson instead. And, you're ignoring him. So we'll just give him 16 clearance. And I think we're going to continue to see that. It makes our offense so much more dangerous when we've got that threat of the passing game, which we've talked about ad nauseam on this podcast. But then you also got the three-headed monster, right, of Michaels, Joe Clevenger, and Tyson Klein. It was Clevenger 2 weeks ago. If it was Klein last week, 2 weeks before, it was Corbin. So we've seen one each of the 3 weeks of the season kind of be the bell cow back. And man, does that make you dangerous when you have all 4 of those 3 running backs that can all get you. The quarterback can run when he wants to, and by the way, he slings it too.
I'm excited for what the rest of the season brings. But in this game, and I have to say it, and I might get myself in trouble a little bit about this because there may be some that disagree. I don't mind a loss in this game versus this team. In a game where really the Saints win, I believe, about every stat line with the exception of the score. For the Saints to come out of this and say, okay, you know what? We got some work to do before the playoffs. Because I think last year it felt like rankings, I don't think, worked in our favor last year. I think we get this mindset that we're the team that we want to be. We're the team that we want to be. We're going to go out and we're going to win, and we're expected to win, and we're high in the rankings. But at the end of the season, we're not the team we need to be. Last year, Wes Hancock came out of that game, the hungrier team, and now we're the IMP team.
The 2011 team started 1-2, right? 1-2. That team, I forgot that. I remember they lost 2 games after you reminded me. I thought it was just 1, taking up, so maybe 2. Obviously, went on to win a state championship as well. I think the message was that group was able to do that because they focused. They focused up and said, we got to get better. We got to get better right now. We got to get better every day, every practice. Just what Coach Beaver talked about during her segment there of just we got to get better. Is you're not going to stay the same. You're either getting worse or you're getting better. And if we're going to be here, then we want to get better. So I think that's the message to the team. To your point, Eric, is season's not a long way long, and we can overcome this if you choose to. But the coaches, the Saints TV guys, we can't do anything about it. No, right? The coaches have a little more control than we do, but it's still up to the kids, still up to the players, right? They got to go execute. We got to go do those little things that Coach Beaver talked about that she's trying to get the volleyball team to do. So both teams having that exact same conversation. How bad do you want? And we want to get better today so that we can get where we want to go in November. And we obviously this game didn't go the way they wanted it to. But there's a lot of football yet to be played. These kids are level-headed as well. I talked to a couple of them this week, and everybody's got the right attitude, the right perspective. Just, sorry, that hurt. That wasn't very much fun, but they kept it in perspective too. We'll be okay. As long as we do what we need to do from here, we'll be okay. Let's put a pin in week 3 by just recapping a couple of scores. You've probably heard these by the time you get there, but in case you haven't, I like to go through a couple scores from around the state that might mean something to our squad here going forward. So Lake Mills versus Newman Catholic last week at Lake Mills. Newman wins that one 30-14. We played both of those teams in the coming weeks. So obviously that was a key matchup in our district. Madrid and Mount Air, that was 2 ranked teams. We talked about that one Friday night. All Madrid, 28-6 is the final there. East Buchanan, who's been ranked throughout the year, they lost for the second week in a row. They dropped this one 40-0 to Macokota Valley. Popped into the rankings in a few polls this week. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Nashville Plainfield, next week's opponent, Veet BCLUW 41-20. So Nashville Plainfield moves to 3-0. Their season is setting up just like last year's, undefeated, coming into their game with St. Ansgar next week. So we'll see if that holds. Believe it will. Looking at schedules, they should be 4-0. They popped into the rankings in a poll or 2 this week as well. Belmont Clemmy, who last week played North Union. Okay, so we played North Union, right? Beat them handily 48-7, I believe. Belmont Clemmy beats North Union in, I think, what most would call an upset, 15-12. So a tight game, a good game. They're gonna be high coming into this one. Their quarterback played really well. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. Wapsie Valley and Southwind. Wapsie Valley gets the win there. Starmont and Northland. Northland beats Starmont. So Northland and Starmont sort of swapped. Northland was just out of most of the polls, and Starmont was 6, 7, 8 in a lot of the polls.
Okay.
That kind of flipped this week. Starmont's dropped out. Northland has come up in a lot of those rankings. So there's your recap. Should we talk about those rankings?
Let's do it.
Not Your Average Joe's completely average rankings week 4 look like this. By the way, we are up to 7 polls. We've had 6 the first 3 weeks. The 7th poll finally released this week. The AP finally released their first poll of the year this week. And next week will be the first official IAHSAA poll of the year. So next week they release the committee poll. So there's a committee of media members, former coaches, and a couple of staff members in Boone that get together every Saturday morning and come up with some rankings. And we'll get those on every Monday now throughout the rest of the season. Those will be the rankings that matter because that is how playoff matchups are set, how the dome bracket, when we get that far, is set. All of that is going to come out of those official rankings. We get the first one of those next Monday, so be sure to join us for Behind the Saints episode 5 to get the first official rankings. But
Joe, it might get to the point where your poll could become one of the
polls.
I kind of think it should.
A little birdie told me that those guys down in Boone do watch the show.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm sure they're paying close attention to this. So let's delay no longer. Let's get them this information so they can put it into their rankings. Coming in this week at number 10 is Earlham, Wapsie Valley, 9. Pekin makes their debut in the Not Your Average Joe's Completely Average poll at number 8. Madrid back in at 7. St. Ansgar drops to 6. So that is exactly how we expected it to happen, right? That the team on the short end of last week's game probably drops a spot or two.
Yep.
And they went from 4 to 6. Probably not unexpected.
Lost by a point.
Exactly. Close game. We said if it was a close game, they'd probably not a lot would change. And that's exactly what happened. Not a lot changed. Lisbon comes in at number 5. They were not in those first couple of polls. They are. So they would be what you would call skyrocketing a poll at number 5, but not as much as Northland. Northland storms their way up the poll to number 4 this week. So they really moved up. ACGC, through no fault of their own, all they do is go out and win, and they drop a spot. They're down to number 3.
Angus Young must not have that good of a game.
You got it. Angus Young just had an okay game, so they dropped to 3. And West Hancock gets that little bump we talked about, and they go from 3 to 2. So West Hancock's now 2, and Woodbury Central is your number 1 team in the Not Your Average poll week number 4.
Is it too early, Joe, for you to pick which team you'd like to play in the playoffs out of the top 10?
If we had to pick one, it's not too early. I mean, I don't want to make bulletin material for anybody. Is that so? You're asking me which of these teams I don't think is legit? Is that what you're asking me?
3. You had to have 2 games. They're saying if there's 2 games in the dome. What does this list like to be?
Spoiler alert. This isn't a team I want to play, but it's the team we're going to play. We're going to play Wapsie Valley in the quarterfinal. That's what will happen. I just
In the quarter.
Okay,
So now we're at the dome.
the game to go to the dome will be St. Ansgar versus Wapsie Valley. Mark the tape. I don't know. It just seems like the state likes that matchup over the years, and these two teams. We haven't played all that often, but it just seems like it's. I don't know. I don't know why that sticks out to me. And again, that's not because that's the team I want to play, because I do think they are very well coached. If we leave our Saints out of it, I think it looks to me like the Woodbury Central, West Hancock, and ACGC have separated themselves from the pack. Again, leaving our Saints out of it because I think we're going to have next as well. But if we're not going to, we take our homer hat off and say, who out there do we think, or does Joe think, on paper anyway, is the real deal? I think it's those 3 teams. And they're sort of in different areas of the state. So it'd be pretty easy to see those 3 making their way to see the falls, at least in some fashion, before the season's over.
And Woodbury, they lost in the title game to West Hancock last year. What were leading in that game? And so
It probably, by all accounts, should have won.
that game. So they're probably feeling that too. We'll chip on their shoulder like, hey, that should have been us last year. No, they're ranked number 1 now, and looks like they got a path to get back there again. So there'll be someone to watch for sure.
When we were broadcasting our Friday game versus West Hancock, I just got flashbacks of what that was like.
clearly Woodbury was going to win that game.
And this is like exactly what we were watching on Friday night.
It feels like West Hancock is they're just never out of a game.
And they run to get back in the game too. It's not like they got some air raid attack,
Yeah.
which I think they threw a little bit more last year, which they don't appear to have quite the passing game this year. So maybe that'll bite them. I don't know, but it didn't bite them against us. They saw it Friday.
I mean, that's what they do is we're not going to panic. We're not going to go start, throwing it 50 yards on every play to try to score a touchdown here. We're just going to play our game, keep handing it off, and they will do that. Now, last year, especially in that championship game, they were able to throw, and they had to at that point, to get back in that thing, and they did just that. So it'll be interesting to see if they can. I'm sure that's part of their focus when their kids or their coaches are talking to their players is, hey, we aren't where we need to be yet. Our passing game's got to be. You go to week 4, gentlemen. Let's talk about the Belmont Clemmy Broncos. They face your Saints at home. So the Saints will travel to Belmont to take on the Belmont Clemmy Broncos. Saints 2-1. The Broncos are 1-2. Of course, the Saints get to 2-1 with a win over Osage in week 1, 28-14. A win over North Union in week 2, 48-7. And we talked about the West Hancock loss last week, 21-20. Belmont Clemmy looks like this. They drop a close one to North Butler, 14-8. They lose to West Hancock, 59-23. So we're looking at common opponents. There's one. Second, the common opponent, they beat North Union last week, 15-12. So that's how they get to 1-2. They're coming off a win. And so they played North Butler to a less than 1 touchdown loss in week 1. And they put up 23 points on West Hancock. So I know a couple of those touchdowns were in the fourth quarter. So one can assume that the game may have been out of hand. I didn't watch the phone. One can assume that the game may have been out of hand by the time some of those points got put up. But the thing we know about this Bronco team is they have some offense. Brody Hefner, just a sophomore. We talked about him last year when these two teams matched up. By the way, the Saints are 3-0 all time against Belmont Clemmy. Only played 3 times. And again, because Belmont Clemmy was a 2A team for 100 years. Or a Class A team for a long time, or a 1A team. So it's just that we've kind of come together in terms of into the same class now, and that's a lot. We saw Hefner last year, and I don't know how many times throughout the game back, this kid can get he's an athlete, and obviously a year older now, a sophomore, back again. He is 35 of 73, with just under 50% completion percentage, 336 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. So the turnover has been his Achilles. He has 336 yards, got just as many yards passing as Jace does on the season. And then you go to the rushing stats and you think, okay, so they probably got a running back to match that. Well, they kind of do. It's Brody Hefner, the quarterback, right? It's him again. Sophomore quarterback, also the leading rusher, 32 carries, 92 yards. How much of that is him running for his life? I don't know. Yep. We'll find out. I have a feeling some of it is. Some of those yards are broken play. This guy's coming at me, so I'm just going to go around the end and run it upfield for 15 or 20 yards and a first down. That hurts when you go from returns a sack into a 20-yard kill. He did that against us last year too, and it appears he's done that throughout the season with being the leading rusher at 92 yards. They have, in terms of carries, they have a couple of guys that are right behind him in terms of carries. Not a lot of yards of rushing outside of him. So it appears as though their offense is going to come to the mirror in terms of their positive yards. They run the spread offense. So we're going to see kind of like that Osage offense. So we're going to have 4 receivers spread us way out. And then when they do run it, and they run it half the time. So it's not that they always throw it. It's that it's designed QB runs a lot, and then when they do run it, it's try to surprise you. 2 receivers, a sophomore, Lamb, and Doherty, the junior. Those are 2 leading receivers. Both of them have 125 yards or more receiving, so they both have done a nice job. 10 catches for Lamb and 11 for Doherty. So they clearly can throw it and can catch it. So it's going to be a matter of slowing down that passing game. I think that will be when we get the keys to the game. We'll talk about that. By the way, just in case you're curious, leading tackler, can you guess?
Can I have two guesses? Hello?
Sophomore quarterback, Brody Heathman, the leading tackler as well. So he's just man. He's just a kid. I think that's what the coach's scout sheet says this week.
Frank Duke speak. He's nasty. He's nasty.
Exactly. The Saints will be ready and need to be ready to try to shut down Brody Hefner. That's a name you're going to hear a lot. Number 17 is the man to watch for the Belmont on Friday night. Or Broncos. I had Eagles stuck in my head. The Broncos of Belmont Clemmy.
Brody Hefner. A name we'll be saying a bunch come Friday night, and maybe for the next 2 years. If we play these guys, the next 2 years, I got it.
So we alluded to some keys to the game. Should we go there?
Yeah, that's a key. Please. I need the keys. We need the keys. Give me the keys.
You're going to be shocked at key number 1. It looks like this. And tame Brody Hefner. Right?
Man, that's a key.
Leading tackler, leading rusher, obviously the leading passer. The only thing he doesn't do is catch his own pass. So outside of that, he is the guy that the Saints will be focused on. They have some other guys to complement that. They've got some big guys up front. We'll talk about them on Friday night. Talk about a couple of their linemen that we'll be watching as well. But it comes down to containing Brody Hefner. And the way to beat Belmont Clemmy is to beat Brody Hefner. Key number 2, which is shut down their passing game. Make him run it. Make him scramble. And he may hurt you a couple of times on the ground. But we'll take it. Make him hurt you on the ground.
Yeah.
Don't let him hurt you in the air. Is my take on it. I don't know how the coaches react to that. We'll never know. They don't watch this stuff anyway. But we'll see if it plays out. We've been pretty key on our keys to the game. We've been pretty spot on. Like in the areas where we've struggled, it's cost us. In the areas where we did that really well, and we said we needed to do it well, and the game went our way. So we'll see if this one's the same.
That puts pressure on you, Joe, picking the key.
I like the pressure. I thrive under the pressure. And number 3, key to the game for week 4 versus Belmont Clemmy is our old friend hang on to the foot.
I was going to predict that.
I said it when it was played North Union. You know, these are these games where you get trapped against a team that, again, on paper, you're better than, you're supposed to be, blah, 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 all that bulletin board crap that coaches hate, right? But the way you get caught in a game like that, the way you let Belmont Clemmy into this game is you give them short fields, you give them 3 points off of turnovers, and they'll can beat you because they got Brody Hefner and crew, right? That we know can put up points because they scored 23 on West Hancock. We know they can do that. They've played in a couple of tight games, won one of them already.
They scored more points against West Hancock than we did.
Exactly. So this is, and the coaching staff's pointing that out this week. Hey, I think Coach Beaver said it about the volleyball team. This doesn't entitle you to any. You're not entitled. And in football, and volleyball, we've seen it this year too. It's 100%. You're not entitled to anything. You show up thinking you've got this thing in the bag. Those are the ones you go home and think, what happened? How did we lose? Well, so anyway, I think that's just something that the coaches will harp on. But one of those things that those games get out of hand on you is when you can't hang on to the stinking football. And we've had some ball security issues. We've had too many balls on the ground. That game last week wouldn't have been close in the other direction had we not recovered our own fumble a couple of times, right? Those would have been ugly, very painful turnovers that instead of a close loss and kind of some of the other comments we had, it might have been they scored 14 off of 2 turnovers and beat us 28-7. Kind of
got to stick them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So some adjustment needs to be made there. I'm sure. Again, I'm not the only one having that conversation this week about how do we do a better job of ball security.
Yeah,
and go prove it this week. Hang on to that football. Key number 3. So there are your 3 keys to the game, as I see it anyway, going into week 4 versus Belmont Clemmy. Should be another fun one. I think they've got the athletes to do this. It's not one of those, hey, this is another practice week and no one's treating it that way. I think the Saints, the other thing kind of maybe the intangible, the Saints may show up a little angry, right? Might show up a little upset on Friday night after last Friday night. That didn't feel good. Nobody liked that. And so go get healthy in terms of mentally healthy on the football field. Show up a little angry and prove what we are about and go bounce back here against Belmont Clemmy.
I know I'm going to be angry.
You look angry.
Right.
Yeah, you sound it too.
When you growl like that, it's scary.
It was scary. All right, gentlemen, I would say that's a wrap here in season 2, episode 4 of Behind the Saints. So I thank you for joining us in this one. Candle Genius, Duke Scoop, not your average Joe. Need to see you Friday night under the lights, and we'll see you next week for episode 5.